He played with the fates of women throughout his life, elevating them only to later reduce them to nothing. But Boleyn became his favorite toy. For this beautiful and extraordinary woman, the English monarch committed many reckless acts. Yet she failed to sense the looming threat in time and could not escape her unfortunate fate. The crown rested on her head for a mere 3 years. She was not a radiant angel like Queen Jane, a proud Spanish princess, or a frivolous fool like Catherine Howard. Historians debate her character. Did she possess a core strength, or was and merely a pawn throughout her life? Initially in the hands of her family, who sought to use her to gain proximity to the throne, and later in the grasp of King Henry VIII. Boleyn was born around the very beginning of the 16th century, the daughter of Elizabeth Howard and Thomas Boleyn. Although her family consisted mainly of minor landowners and farmers, and had royal blood flowing through her veins, she was distantly related to King Edward I. The carefree childhood of the future queen was spent in the family castle of Hever in Kent and at Blickling Hall. At the age of 13, she traveled to Brussels with her father. Thomas Boleyn was building a diplomatic career, and the Tudor monarchs often entrusted him with various missions abroad. Anne's first significant trip was a success. The ruler of the Netherlands welcomed the young girl into her court and frequently remarked on how clever and charming she found her. At that time, the ideal beauties were women akin to Vespucci, with golden or light hair and fair eyes. Dark-skinned Anne, with her dark eyes, did not fit this mold, but nature endowed her with a unique magnetism. The younger Boleyn, she had a sister and 3 brothers, was immediately noticed by everyone, and it was impossible to forget her. Nicholas Sanders left this description of her appearance: tall, with black hair. It is said that she had protruding teeth and 6 fingers on her hand. However, this unflattering testimony relates to the end of the century when Sanders could not have seen Boleyn. She was already deceased. Eventually, Anne and her sister Mary were sent to France to accompany the lovely Princess Mary Tudor, who was to become the wife of Louis XII. This dynastic union lasted only a few months. The old king died, and the English rose returned to London, and, however, remained in France. The charming and affable girl was admitted to the court of Queen Claude. There, on the banks of the Loire and Seine, and learned French, studied poetry, literature, and the art of flirtation. Her success in this area became evident in the events that followed. Time passed, and it was time for the young woman to marry. Relations between England and France soured, prompting the young Boleyn to be called back home. She was to marry a distant relative, a cousin from Ireland. The Boleyn family sought to resolve disputes regarding land inheritance, but the wedding never took place, and Boleyn caught the eye of the King of England. She was dancing with her sister and the very same Mary Tudor, whom she had once served in France. The king was enchanted. Young, with sparkling eyes, flexible, and graceful. Yet at that moment, nothing came of it. Boleyn seemed oblivious to Henry's attention. Many courted her, and there was even an engagement. It was only after 2 years, during a second encounter, that the king became more insistent. It all felt like a game, and didn't want to become the king's favorite, yet he was unwilling to lose her. Rumors suggested that her behavior was being calmly orchestrated by Thomas Boleyn, who had supposedly devised a strategy to fan the king's desires to the right temperature. The king was caught in a trap. Gifts, attention, poetic odes. He was willing to do anything for Anne Boleyn. He wrote her love letters that expressed his longing. The ache of separation is immense, but the farther the poles are from the sun, the stronger the heat. For 7 years, their relationship remained platonic. No evidence has ever proven otherwise. Eventually, the game dragged on. The king proposed that and become his wife, but he already had a queen. A divorce was necessary. To bring Anne closer to the throne, the king made her the Marquis of Pembroke. He then sent a representative to Rome. However, the Vatican flatly refused to annul the king's marriage, even under the pretext that Catherine of Aragon had been involved with Henry's brother. The queen was unyielding, but Henry was determined not to lose. He decided that the Church of England would not be obedient to Rome. Thus, the Pope's opinion became irrelevant. This led to the English Reformation, and the Archbishop of Canterbury agreed to the king's divorce. Almost immediately, the wedding took place. In May of 1533, the English learned that their new ruler was Lady Anne Boleyn, and was ceremoniously crowned, and in September, she gave birth to a daughter, Princess Elizabeth. Although the king longed for a son, Boleyn's position was secure. Soon, she declared that she would gift her husband another child, and he showered her with gifts. This was the most dazzling period of Anne Boleyn's life. The king indulged her with the finest clothes and fulfilled every whim. But she could not carry the child to term. After some time, the situation repeated itself. Henry VIII quickly grew distant. No heir meant no crown. It's likely that the king held this view and swiftly began to seek a replacement for Anne. His new interest, Jane Seymour, started receiving his first affections. But first, the obstacle, Boleyn, had to be removed. A web of lies was spun, and was accused of adultery and treason. Her musician was arrested, and he confessed to having an affair with the queen, and was taken into custody. She wrote a letter to the king, pleading for a fair investigation and asserting her innocence, but the message never reached him. Everything had already been decided, and Boleyn walked to the scaffold. The path for the new queen was cleared. She had played with the king and had become his favorite toy. But, alas, she was broken. Interestingly, when Boleyn's remains were discovered many years later, no sixth finger was found on her hand. This turned out to be as much a fabrication as the accusations of infidelity.